This edition of Talk to Me is brought to you by Cobb County Freedom and Justice Fund, continuing the march to freedom and a call for justice on the local level in Cobb County, Georgia. Also, International Piano and Voice, Tomas Gerdiken. Learn online live with the German Prince of New Orleans piano, Tomas Gerdiken. It's time once again for another edition of Talk to Me. And now, here's Emmy himself, 8-time Emmy Award-winning journalist, Maynard Eaton.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Talk to Me. I'm Maynard Eaton, and this is our weekly conversation with business leaders, cultural influencers, political leaders. And speaking of political leaders, we have the mayor of Atlanta from 2002 to 2010, probably the most influential female politician in the South, Mayor Shirley Franklin. Thank you for joining us, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm delighted to join you.
Mayor, you were the first African-American mayor of a major southern city. Now you just sent out an email today talking about we can win it all. You're still involved heavily with politics, are you not?
I am, and let's just get that correct. I wasn't the first African-American mayor. I was the first African-American woman. Remember right. Maynard Jackson. You do remember Maynard Jackson, right?
Of course, of course. I'm sorry,
so,
I misspoke.
No, it's not a problem. Sometimes people make that mistake, but I stand on his broad shoulders and the shoulders of so many who worked so hard during the Civil Rights Movement to get the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act passed. It's just important to take a breath on that. Only occasionally, but Georgia has a huge opportunity with many elections, but this one in particular, where we have two Senate races that are highly contested. And I believe that Joe Biden, Vice President Biden, and Senator Harris, as well as Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff, can take it all.
Speaking of Maynard Jackson, though, before we get into this election, your husband helped engineer his election, and you worked with Maynard Jackson. So you've been a mentee of Maynard Jackson for quite a while. Am I right?
That's absolutely right. I moved to Atlanta in 1972, in February of 72. And Andrew Young started running for Congress in the spring and summer. And so I had a chance to work on Andy's campaign for Congress in 1972. And he was successful, and I continued to work on several campaigns. And the next big one, was Maynard Jackson's campaign for mayor. Here was a 34-year-old who was running for office and assumed office, 34, 35 years old. And many people, both in the white community and the Black community, had no idea of the tremendous impact that he would have on the city, the state, and really American politics. He was bold, he was courageous, he was smart, he was compassionate, and he continues to be a mentor of mine and really thousands of other people.
The way you described him, many describe you and your tenure as mayor from 2002 to 2010. You made an impact as well.
Well, I appreciate the compliments. I think mostly about the things that I didn't get done, even though we did a lot on infrastructure, the water infrastructure, the airport infrastructure. We did programs around workforce development. The whole city pulled together to help the tens of thousands of people who came here from the Gulf Coast after Katrina hit the Gulf Coast, especially New Orleans. And we all pulled together to help people find jobs and housing and to get the necessities of life in a very quick period of time. But I am thrilled to have served, but I am not fooled that there is much more to do.
Your legacy has lasted, as some told me yesterday, your legacy has lasted without much blemish. What has your legacy been, you think, after now that you have time to reflect on it?
Well, I think you asked to the answer. I actually think if you have to describe your own legacy, you probably don't have much of a legacy. But the fact is, I'm proud that Atlanta continues to be a city that strives to be better and better. Mayor Bottoms has really taken the city to a national level when it comes to politics. No one other than Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young have been able to do that the way she has, being right in the midst of the national debate on issues. And I'm very proud that when, as a woman, I opened the door so that another woman could walk through.
Speaking of the current election, some 3.6 million people have voted early in the city of Atlanta or throughout the state of Georgia. Is Georgia ready to turn blue? I think you mentioned it earlier. Is this a pivotal time for Atlanta and the state of Georgia in this election?
It is past time. So we're just catching up with ourselves. I mean, we've been ready to be on the national platform again. And we have a huge opportunity. As you recall, in the last governor's race, just about 4 million people voted. And it looks as if we're going to exceed those numbers. And that's, I think, a sign of the times. I think it's a sign of the technology and the social media and the expanded communications. It's a sign that people are paying attention to what's going on in Washington and have strong opinions. It is a sign that many, not all, elective officials and election officials are making it easier to vote. There is still voter suppression. And fortunately, we had Fair Fight with Stacey Abrams and ACLU with Andrea Young and the NAACP with Derek Johnson and Richard Rose locally, all fighting to be sure that we have fair elections. But it's clear that people are worried. They're worried about the economy. They're worried about public health and the pandemic. They're worried about jobs. They're worried about their children. Who would have dreamed that children would have been at home studying for 6 months? And many children still are studying remotely. A colleague of mine was talking about the digital divide in 2011 and 12. And here we saw it when it became time for children to study at home. The digital divide was evident to everyone. And there was a real scramble to be sure that all children in Atlanta public schools and as many as possible in the state could be connected with their teachers in March. And many are still having to be connected. Some have illnesses and parents concerned in school. But the digital issues are front and center. And then, of course, we have all the policing issues. George Floyd's death and on video for the world to see, for us to see. It breaks your heart. You know that it's happened before, but it's one of the few times we've actually seen it as officers have their hands in their pockets and seem to be about to order lunch. I mean, they're so casual, and a man is dying right there in their midst. And all of us know that there are many good police officers, but we can't tolerate that kind of police abuse.
What do you make of the racial reckoning, the outburst of Black Lives Matter this summer? I mean, as a leading political figure in this nation and certainly in the city, what does this summer wrought, do you think, for the elections coming up now?
I think there's no question that Black Lives Matter and the civil rights organizations and just everyday folks are now concerned about race in a way that they haven't been and certainly haven't discussed in my lifetime since the 60s. And there are periods in American history where the issues of race and racial disparity racial injustice have risen to the top of the public debate and conversation. And we have a unique opportunity to push the ball forward in a big way with this election. We have an African American woman, let me say that again, an African American woman who is the candidate of a major political party, my party, the Democratic, for vice president of the United States. And she is qualified, and she is able, and she is ready. And she is not just a complement to the ticket, she is a partner on the ticket. And that is a huge accomplishment, but not as big as her election, which is why we are so anxious that everyone gets out to vote. Every vote counts. And in my own election in 2002, many people have forgotten. They talk about I had a landslide. Well, I won with 181 votes.
I remember.
The majority was by 181 votes, 50.01%, which means I almost lost. Which means I would have gone to a runoff, and I believe that I would have lost a runoff. So the fact of the matter is every vote counts.
What is the impact the Black female electorate is having? We have a lot of elected officials who followed in your footsteps across the country who are female and African American. What is the impact in this election you think that Black vote is going to have?
Well, let's dial back to South Carolina, the primary, the Democratic primary. And African American women who dominated in the Democratic primary gave Joe Biden, Vice President Biden, a resounding victory that put him on a trajectory to win the nomination and to unify the party. There were many good candidates who were running, but African American women did an assessment along with Representative Clyburn and others, and they decided to unify their support behind Vice President Biden, and the rest is history.
That's true. Mayor Franklin, in preparing for this interview with you, I was telling a good friend, a leading pastor in this town, about I'm getting ready to talk to Shirley Franklin about the politics. She said, well, tell her, Democrats must start delivering for us. Is that on the minds of many? Will Democrats do something for Black folks this time around?
Well, I think you can look at the history of political leadership, and certainly FDR delivered. Jimmy Carter delivered. Just look at them. Jimmy Carter delivered. Clinton delivered. I mean, Maynard Jackson delivered. Now, if what your friend meant was we need to deliver more, I agree with that. But let's not forget Social Security, Obamacare, Medicare, reduction in college costs, all sorts of things. The thousands of people who work at the airport. Let's not forget that that much of that money came from the federal government, not exclusively, but the federal government got behind that. Remember Ivan Allen. Ivan Allen testified before the Congress for civil rights legislation. And President Johnson, another Democrat, he made sure that Atlanta got the infrastructure money that it needed. Andrew Young. So I don't disagree that we need to deliver more, a lot more. And much of what we need to deliver is for those people who continue to be in the lower socioeconomic levels. So we need college and advanced degrees need to be affordable for everyone or free. We need to be sure that 100% of the people who live in the United States and white and other need to have health care. If we are not convinced that public health is an issue in America after the pandemic, then we need to be. Somehow or another, we need to have a national the national will to solve our public health issues. And the issue of COVID is just one of them. It is not the only healthcare issue that we have. We have mental health issues. Georgia has some of the poorest record on delivering mental health services in the United States. You can't expect people to live in an advanced, competitive, fast-paced society and not have the access to mental health professionals and treatment that they needed at an early age. Cancer research. Somehow or another, we've gotten away from increasing the funding on cancer research. Vice President Biden has taken that on after the death of his son. But that doesn't need to be one person's mission. It needs to be the mission of the entire government so that we can tackle some of these very deadly diseases. And it is true that how you live your life impacts your health. But it is also true that regardless of how you live your life, you need to have advanced medical technology, medical science to help you, because your predisposition to an illness may be genetic, it may be environmental influences, and let's not forget, just because we don't have fires in Georgia, let's not forget the West, Colorado and California. I mean, the fires that we've seen, the floods that we've seen. Climate change is a big issue, and we need to move to a green economy.
You still sound like the mayor. You really do.
Well, I don't want to talk too much, but climate change, public health, police strategies, investment in communities, investment in people and well-being, community well-being, closing the wealth gap, undoing the gaps that exist between African Americans because of the conditions and the intentional laws and practices of this country. Reestablishing ourselves on the national and the international stage as a proponent of peace and reconciliation and collaboration. We can't pick one of those things. We've got to do them all. And I think the Democrats in Biden, Harris, Georgia are the people to do it for us.
Let's speak about the wealth gap. Atlanta is known as a black mecca across the country, if not the world. But it's a city of haves and have-nots. There are black wealthy folks here who some criticize are not reaching back to help the have-nots. That concerned you when you were mayor. That still concern you now?
Well, I think we need to wipe out the wealth gap and the opportunity gap and the education gap. And I don't have an answer for how that is done. When I was in college, there was lots of discussion about reparations for African Americans. That has reemerged as a conversation. What that looks like, I've noticed that Bob Johnson, the entrepreneur and very successful business person, has talked about that. But so have other folks. I mean, is that free college and free medical care? Is it some kind of access to capital to make up for the years of discrimination and hatred and treatment and discriminatory treatment? I don't know the answer to that, but I don't think we can go much farther in our history without addressing the wealth gap. Many of us, including I, believe that first-class education is pivotal, but I don't think that's the only key to success. We need to train entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs have to have access to capital, and access to capital remains a hurdle for many people of color, but especially for African Americans. We lost community banks during the Great Recession, and many of them served lower income or certainly moderately income folks. To work in America 40 hours a week on any job and not be able to afford housing and food and health care and amenities for your family is just beneath us. That is not the America that I know we can be. And so the wage gap is a big part of it. I mean, to get a job in Georgia at $7 or $8, maybe that's a start, but you can't support your family. You can barely support yourself at triple that. At triple that.
That's right. Mayor, you can tell by your passion, your political passion, you've not been sitting on the sidelines. Now you're the executive board chairman of Purpose-Built Communities. Let's listen to you talk about that right now.
Tom Cousins and Warren Buffett and Julian Robertson have a big view of the world. I mean, they don't accept no. They believe that change can come, and that when good people work together and they're persistent and smart and humble, they can change the world. And so the rest of us follow along with that. But the good news is that in every single city in America, there are people working really hard at the grassroots level. What we do with our approach with a community quarterback, a focus on education, mixed income housing, and community wellness, is we bring a framework for directing that energy in a way that we believe will give you predictable outcomes over a relatively short period of time.
Shirley Franklin, you're still making a difference, are you not? Tell us more about your current kind of cause.
Well, Purpose-Built Communities grew out of the East Lake Foundation project. East Lake project was the result of hard work on the part of three leaders, Tom Cousins, Eva Davis, and Renee Glover. And they came up with a model that includes affordable housing, mixed income affordable housing, cradle to college and career education pipeline, and community wellness programs. And that model attracted some other philanthropists and housing specialists. And the result is that now Purpose-Built Communities is in 26 or 27 cities, 28 projects. And there are three projects right here in Atlanta: Grove Park Foundation, and also FCS, which is off of University, South Atlanta, historic Atlanta area. And those three projects are indicative of the kind of work that's going on in 26 other cities, where community leaders, both from the grassroots leaders, as well as government leaders and business leaders, are coming together to say there should be no neighborhood in America that is not a stepping stone for its residents to be successful in business, to be successful in life, to be successful in keeping its community safe and getting its children educated. And that is the purpose-built model that you heard described. It's very exciting. And there are ups and downs. It's not easy to do. So, like housing, we believe that you need a holistic approach to this. And we think after 20 summers, we've proven that that is the more successful approach.
Finally, Mayor, Tuesday, November 3rd, some argue, some suggest this may be the most important election we've ever seen in our generation. What do you say about that? And where do we go from here, win or lose?
Well, we're going to win because people are going to vote. So we're going to win. And if you are engaged in the process, if you vote, even if all of your candidates don't win, you win because you have sent a message and raised your voice on the issues that you care about by casting your vote. I really do think we have a very good chance to win the White House and to win in the Senate and to win in the House. We have Nikema Williams, who is running in the 5th district, and she will follow the legendary and courageous and amazing John Lewis, and we're looking forward to great things with her. But I would say the democracy and our country are only as good as our community engagement. We all have to own the win, and we have to own the loss. But I intend for
Mayor Shirley Franklin, the 58th mayor of our city of Atlanta. Mayor, as a journalist, I miss you. I really do. You were captivating copy, a great story every day, and you were in office. Do you miss being there? Do you miss City Hall?
I miss the people. Every now and then I stick my toe in it, and then I pull it right out.
Mayor, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an honor to talk to you again. God bless.
Thank you.